Okay, we're going to talk about just kind of word problems, applications of series and sequences. All right. So this first example I have up here, Edgar is getting better at math. On his first quiz, he scored 57 points. Then he scores 61 and 65 on his next two quizzes. If his scores continue to increase at the same rate, that's important, what will be his score on the 9th quiz? Show all work. Okay, so first off, he went from 57 to a 61 to a 65. Okay, so let's think about that for a second. What does it look like he was increasing his scores by each time? 4 points. That's right. We see that 57, 61 is 4. 61, 65 is 4. Okay? So if he's going to continue increasing at the same rate, that means he's going to continue adding 4 points each time. All right, let's look at what A wants. Letter A wants us to write an explicit formula for the sequence. Okay. So 1, he's adding 4 each time. So what kind of sequence is this? Arithmetic. Very good. So you should remember that the general arithmetic formula is A sub n is equal to A sub 1 plus D times n minus 1. Okay? That's a minus 1. It's really just going to be bad. Okay? So, alright. So now, we kind of have everything. We know what the first term is, because what was the first quiz score he made? 57. So we can say A sub n is equal to 57 plus, okay, what was the common difference each time? In other words, what was he going up by each time? 4 points times n minus 1. Awesome. Now I just simply distribute. So I get 57 plus, okay, so I distribute my 4. 4 times n is 4n. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Okay? So I distribute the 4 into here, and then the 4 times negative 1. So then that gives me A sub n is equal to 4n, and then 57 and negative 4 together makes 53. Alright. Explain where you found the numbers you are putting into the formula. Okay. A sub 1 was what he made on the first quiz. So A sub 1 equals 57 made on first quiz. Okay, I'm not going to finish writing because this is really hard. But you should write made on first quiz. Okay, and D is just equals 4. D equals 4. And then you could write something along the lines of, because he's adding 4 each time to his quiz score. Okay? Now, it says, identify the value of n and explain where you found it. Okay? So in other words here it says, hey, what do I want to find? You know, when you read all this, the question says, if his scores continue to increase at the same rate, what will be his score on his 9th quiz? Okay? Well, so that means n equals 9. And we found it because it asks what would be the 9th quiz. Use the explicit formula to solve the problem. So we're going to take this explicit formula, A sub n, and we're going to find A sub 9. A sub 9, which is going to be equal to 4 times 9 plus 53. So 4 times 9 is 36. 36 plus 53 is 89, I think. 36, so 53. Pretty sure, but I'm just going to double check myself. Yeah, 89. So what he'd make on his 9th quiz is an 89. Write your final answer as a sentence. Edgar, on his 9th quiz, will score an 89. Done. Easy breezy. Okay? So that was an example of an arithmetic one. Let's look at another example. So here's our next example. In a certain region, the number of highway accidents increased by 20% over a 4-year period. How many accidents were there in 2006 if there were 5,120 in 2002? When the percent increases, you want the When the percent increases, you want the original plus the additional 20%. Okay, so there's a lot going on in this problem, all right? Before we try to write the explicit formula, let's just kind of talk about what's going on, all right? We have accidents happening. They're increasing 20% each year. To increase 20%, that means you take all the percent from last year. So that's 100%. And then you add another 20% on top of that. So that means that from one year to the next year, you've really increased 120%. Okay? Well, you've gone up by 120%. Okay? The total difference, I guess I should say, is 120%. Okay? So that means that from 2002, all right, to 2003, I went up 120%. Okay, so what does that mean? How do I find going up 120%? Well, all that simply means is that you take the number from 2002, okay, which was 5120, and you multiplied it by 1.2. All right, you should remember in class we've talked about 120% is the same thing as 1.2. All right, so if you were to take 5120 and multiply it by 1.2, that would carry you to 2003. All right, now here's the hard part for this problem, is that they want to know how many accents there were in 2006, but they gave you the starting amount in 2002. Okay, so our first term comes from, so we have 5120, but it comes from 02. And then, okay, that was supposed to be like a little dash representing a year. Okay, not sure if it goes on the back side or on the front side. I think it goes on the front side. Okay, anyway, that means 2002. All right, so then they don't tell me how much is 2003. They don't tell me how much is 2004. They don't tell me how much 2005 is. And they don't tell me how much 2006 is either, but that's what I want. Okay, so I want 06. Okay, but what did we just talk about we were doing each time? We're increasing by 20%. That means each time to go from one year to the next year, we simply multiply by 1.2. Okay, well, let me ask you something. How many times do I need to multiply by 1.2 to go from 5120 to 06? Just simply once, twice, thrice, 3, and then 4 times, okay? But we don't actually have to write it out like that, okay? I just wanted to point out to you that that's what's happening here, okay? We can find the explicit formula, okay? This is geometric. I'm multiplying by something, so it's geometric. So I can find the explicit formula simply by saying a sub n is equal to a sub 1 times r raised to the n minus 1. Okay? So then it's just going to be equal to, well, what is the first term? What is the first number of accents? What year was that? 2002. How many accents were there? 5,120. Times r. Well, what did we just establish r was? 1.2. And we're just writing without actually plugging in an n right now. We're just writing an explicit formula without plugging in an n. So we get 1.2 raised to the n minus 1. That is our explicit formula. Now, the next thing it asks is identify the value of n. Okay? Well, how many accents does it want me to get? I mean, what year? I'm sorry, I said how many. What year does it want me to check for? 2006. This is the tricky part. N is the total term that the year 06 would be. Which term is the year 06? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th term. Okay? So, we're going to say a sub 5 is equal to 5,120 times 1.2 raised to the 5 minus 1, which should be 4. Okay, so we all remember this little thing I showed you up here? We're doing it right here. Rather than actually like having to do it each time, we're going to do it in one big step. We're just going to take 5120 and multiply by 1.2 raised to the 4. So we're going to multiply by 1.2 4 times. All right? So we're just going to take a to the 5th, and it's going to be equal to, we're going to let a calculator do the thinking for us. Turn this on, 5,120 times 1.2 raised to the, okay, what is 5 minus 1? 4. Fourth power. So 10,616. Okay, now, does it make sense to say 0.83? No, because you don't have part of an accident. So we're just going to say 10,616. So that's how many accidents happened in 2006. Now, C says, predict the total number of accidents over a 10-year period. Okay, so the game has changed a little bit. All right. 1, this is still geometric. All right. So then I know I need to use this formula. S sub n is equal to a sub 1 times 1 minus r raised to the n divided by 1 minus r. So then this should be pretty simple. I just need the first term, which I have is 5120. I need r, which I have is 1.2. And I need n, which I know is 10, because it told me to find it over a 10-year period. So S sub 10 is equal to the first term, which is 5120, times 1 minus r, which is 1.2, raised to the nth, which is 10. Close that. All divided by 1 minus 1.2. Alright, I'm just going to plug this in a calculator, let it do the rest of this thinking for me. 5120 times 1 minus parenthesis 1.2 parenthesis raised to the 10th power, close that parenthesis, divided by, close, open, 1 minus 1.2. Close, press enter, and I get, so this is the sum over the 10-year period. There was 132,908 accidents. So the sum over the 10-year period was 132,908 accidents. All right. I hope that kind of helped explain this. You guys let me know if there's any questions I can answer for you. Have a great day.